GMVA damages in New York City, Compensatory and Punitive Awards. Attorney Andrew M. Stengel. Sexual assault and sexual abuse survivors considering a civil lawsuit under the Gender Motivated Violence Act often ask a practical question: what can I actually recover? Understanding GMVA damages, compensatory and punitive, helps you set realistic expectations and recognize why the quality of legal representation matters enormously. The answers depend on the specific facts of your case. However, the GMVA provides a broad damages framework built to address the full scope of harm survivors experience. This post explains how each category works, what factors drive case value, and why acting early in the look-back window makes a real difference. The two categories of GMVA civil damages in New York City. GMVA damages fall into two broad categories. Compensatory damages compensate you for actual losses, both economic and non-economic. Punitive damages serve a different purpose. They punish defendants for particularly egregious conduct and deter similar behavior in the future. In cases involving institutional defendants who actively concealed sexual assault or sexual abuse, punitive damages can represent a significant component of the total recovery. For survivors pursuing a civil lawsuit with a New York sexual assault lawyer, understanding both categories helps frame the full scope of what the law makes available. In New York, courts recognize both categories fully and have awarded meaningful compensation under each. What compensatory damages cover in a GMVA lawsuit? Compensatory damages address the real-world losses caused by sexual assault. In New York, those losses fall into economic and non-economic categories, and both matter to the overall recovery. Economic damages include past and future medical and psychological treatment costs, therapy, psychiatric care, medication, and related expenses through the projected end of your treatment. Lost income is also recoverable: time missed from work, reduced productivity, and positions lost because of trauma-related symptoms. Additionally, lost earning capacity covers cases where trauma significantly altered your educational or career trajectory. Vocational and economic experts document and quantify these losses with precision, and they often constitute a substantial portion of the total damages in a GMVA case. Non-economic damages typically represent the largest component of recovery. Pain and suffering encompass physical pain, emotional anguish, fear, humiliation, and loss of enjoyment of life. Because sexual assault affects survivors at every level, professionally, relationally, and psychologically, non-economic damages can be substantial even when economic losses are more modest. For this reason, experienced attorneys invest heavily in expert witness preparation and survivor testimony to present these damages fully. Punitive damages and institutional defendants in New York City. Punitive damages apply where defendants acted with malice, reckless disregard for your rights, or deliberate indifference to known risk. In institutional cases, this standard is frequently met. Institutions that actively concealed abuse, destroyed records, or made conscious decisions to protect abusers over survivors face serious exposure to punitive awards. In New York, the possibility of a meaningful punitive award creates real pressure on institutional defendants to resolve cases for significant amounts. Beyond settlement dynamics, punitive damages also create financial incentives for institutional policy reform, which benefits survivors well beyond the individual case. The specific amount depends on the facts. However, attorneys experienced in institutional sexual abuse litigation understand how to build and present a compelling punitive damages case. Key factors that shape your GMVA case value. Several factors determine what a GMVA lawsuit is ultimately worth. The severity and duration of the sexual assaults or sexual abuse affect both economic and non-economic damages. How early the institution received and ignored complaints about the abuser is critical to establishing punitive liability. The strength of documented psychological harm, established through expert witnesses, directly affects non-economic damages. Economic expert testimony on lost earnings and future treatment costs adds precision and credibility to the damages presentation. Institutional defendants typically carry substantial liability insurance, which affects both the ability to collect a judgment and the dynamics of settlement negotiations. Furthermore, the presence of multiple survivors enables powerful pattern evidence and significantly increases institutional exposure across all damage categories. Why acting early in the look back window strengthens your case. The damages case in a GMV. A lawsuit builds over time through the retention and preparation of expert witnesses, the development of medical and psychological records, and the careful documentation of ongoing harm. Expert witnesses need adequate time to review records and prepare thorough opinions. Your experience of trauma in therapy, at work, in relationships must be recorded and preserved with care. Survivors who engage an attorney early in the look back window have more time to develop the evidence that maximizes case value. Rushed engagements near the filing deadline often produce weaker damages cases, not because the harm is less real, but because the evidence base is less fully developed. In New York, the look back window will not stay open indefinitely. Act early, build strong. Contact us immediately about your GMVA case. The long term consequences of sexual assault deserve complete legal recognition. The law firm of Andrew M. Stengel. PC represents GMVA survivors throughout New York, building comprehensive damages cases through expert retention, thorough documentation of harm, and aggressive advocacy at every stage of litigation. All cases are handled on a contingency fee basis. You pay nothing unless we recover for you. Contact us for a free, completely confidential consultation. Email info@stengellaw.com. For more information, please visit our website, stengellaw.com. Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome.